It's a little better. I know, but it was only the top of our head. I know. There's no.
Good morning, everybody. Tuesday, we have Phil stepping in for Dave, who is camping. Sounds chilly to me, but thank you, Phil.
Okay, we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Liberty and justice for all.
And the Rotary four-way test.
True. Is it fair to all concerned? To all concerned.
Okay, just a couple announcements. No birthdays this week. Dave Berger, who's not here, I guess he's celebrating. It's his 24-year anniversary. And Ron Reichers, he must have joined almost the same time. So 24 years with Rotary. And we do have a guest if you want to. I see a new person here, so maybe just introduce yourself.
He's looking around for
His host person. I'm looking for John. I'm here to meet John Holbeck.
Oh, okay.
It's scheduled to be the chair for Rotary Youth Exchange in next July.
Got it.
Former president of Phil Rotary, just finished there.
Oh, nice to meet you. Welcome. And then here's John. Speak of the.
waiting for us.
See the Packers, are they 3-1? 3-1-1. So on their season, they're gonna be about 10 wins, 4 losses, and 4 ties. Brewers, some of us watched the game last night. It was an awesome game. They did lose, but we'll see how they play tonight. So with that, I'll turn it back to our president. What about who?
The Bears. They won last
All right, so our member moments person is not here, so we are gonna tack on that. And as a reminder, that calendar is all up for the year, so you can take a look and see when your moment is. So we will move Aaron down the line. And then we have some new Rotarians who I will add to that calendar as well. And I'll let you know individually that I have added you to the calendar so you are prepared for when you remember when it is. Okay, some announcements or some general things. There is a board meeting today right after this meeting, just down the hall. You do not have to be on the board to attend. You are more than welcome to join us. I do see some trick or treat candy in the back. We are collecting trick or treat candy for the neighborhood navigators to give out at trick or treat. So while we are not going to be physically present at the trunk or treat, we do want to help out the navigators with the literally thousands of children who are going to attend. So if you can bring some donations, that would be awesome. So thank you for that. A reminder that this Saturday, there are several of us who are going to be working the concessions at what even I know is going to be a disastrous game for the Badgers. However, I'm just in it for the band every time I ever go to a game. But nonetheless, we'll be working concessions for the game on Saturday. Tony has sent out, Debbie has sent out, Terry has sent out. There's information out about how that's all going to work. But if you do have questions, you can certainly let me know. But that is coming up on this Saturday. Let's see. Rotary Foundation is working on and should have for us soon a presentation about our secondary wing of financial donations, gifts, where we stand, etc. So Ann and I have been coordinating on that, and there will be information presented to the group on a regular basis once it begins. So it should be soon, but I know some of you are asking about that. I want to make sure you know that we are working on that, and that will be forthcoming. And then World Polio Day is this month, and a reminder that we do collect a little bit spare change in all matters for World Polio Day. We have that at the back when you come in, along with the raffle tickets. So a reminder about that. And it is interesting to me how much polio still comes up. So all of you probably remember Powers, who was here for a long, long time. And apparently retirement isn't sitting well with him because he applied to work at the Live. So he's going to be working at the Live 2 days a week at the desk. So he came in for his interview. He was nervous. You know, he told me that. And I said, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, but cool, you're not ready to come through the door. So he's been working at the desk. We were just chatting, and he asked me about Rotary, how it's going. And he mentioned that his connection with Rotary, in addition to obviously just being here. And he had joined for a short time. He's an optimist now, or at least he was. But he mentioned his dad had polio, and that how Rotary holds a near and dear space to his heart because of his dad's circumstances, and how you know, that polio eradication is still such a huge part of what Rotary is. So again, just a reminder that that is not just something that was in the past, it is something that unfortunately is still with us, and how much Rotary made a difference for many, many folks. So World Polio Day coming up. And then the last thing that I have for president announcements is I just want to give a shout out to Michael for all the stuff we've been doing with our website and with our technology, making sure it's all running smoothly. And not least of which, now we have available all of the meetings, all recorded, all by chapters. You can go right to the speaker. You can go right to a member moment. You can send that information out. You can share it. It's a tremendous amount of work. Makes us all, you know, current and all that good stuff. Okay, so Rotary Moments. Who do we have? What do we have? Anybody? Ron?
I thank everybody for helping out at the painting breakfast this last weekend. It went real good. The firemen, lots of smiles on his faces. Okay. Thanks, Ron.
Indeed, thank you. Anybody else? Rotary Moments. What? Right. Wow. Okay. No moment. Everybody's just basking in the fall and thinking about the Brewers. Cool. All right. Well, Ron, you get to be all things Ron today. So 24th year anniversary, heading up the pancake breakfast, and speaker today, and sharing some things with us. So I give it to you.
I was going to have another person speak, but they're not available for a couple of weeks, so I'll do a little speech on the appliance industry. the effects of the tariffs and the economy. With the tariffs, we're finding that some parts, especially parts that come from China, have been on back order. Like there's one control board there's 4,000 of them that we're waiting for from China. There's 2,000 customers across the country with washers that are less than a year old that they're waiting for a month for the part because of so the manufacturers are trying to be selective on which companies are best at getting around the tariffs and the supply chain problems. The new products are most of them are readily available, but there's a few models that are not available for months, but the majority of them are available, and the prices have gone up an average of, I'd say, about 10% in the last year on the prices on most of the products. And another interesting thing that I've noticed is that extended warranties, I've never pushed really hard because it's just another insurance company, and the reliability of some of these appliances has declined a little bit, and the underwriters of the insurance companies are starting to realize that, and so the price of extended warranties has went up by about 30% in the last year. And I'm going to check with the Consumer Protection Division because I had a case a few weeks ago where a customer had a refrigerator that was a year and a half old, and the compressor went bad, and they bought an extended warranty through me. And I went out to look at it the same day because they were going to lose food, and I found that it had a bad compressor, and so I called up the extended warranty company, and I was too honest with them. I admitted to them that I had already went out to look at the product to diagnose it, and they used that for an excuse that the warranty is void because I went out and looked at it, but without calling them and getting a case number ahead of time. And I told them that the customer could just call somebody else and get another diagnosis and just pretend that I wasn't there, that I don't care if I get paid for the service call. I just want the repair to be covered. But I didn't realize when I was being questioned over the phone that they were looking for an excuse to get out of backing up the warranty. And so I caution anybody with extended warranties that before any company goes out to look at the product, to check the fine print. And I'm an authorized servicer for this company, and I've gone out lots of times before and then gotten the case number afterwards because I thought it was more important to get the product serviced than to deal with the bureaucracy, and they're using it as an excuse now because they're losing money on these extended warranties. They've had to exchange a lot of products because of parts availability, not because they couldn't be fixed, just because they can't get the parts in a reasonable amount of time. So the cost to the insurance companies has been so high that they've raised the prices 30%, and so that's one part of the industry. And then another part is that the government has been discouraging people from using gas ranges for the past year and a half. And I never got a chance to speak at any of the government meetings, but part of the reason for their basis is the carbon monoxide levels have gotten higher in homes with gas ranges, and it's because of the newer homes are more airtight than the older ones were, and so the gas fumes don't dissipate as much. But they left one fact out of the equation when they made all those judgments, and that is that in the fine print in the owner's manual for the gas ranges, it states that you're supposed to have an exhaust fan that goes outside right above the stove, and too many people are building homes with they want to save energy, and they don't want the heat to go out the vent, so they just recirculate through a charcoal filter. And so somebody needs to communicate with the builders and the building inspectors and the government that anybody who does have a gas range should be sure to have an outside vent. And I believe that if all of the high readings that they got for high carbon monoxide levels across the country, if they would have asked everybody, is you have an exhaust fan that's vented outside, the majority of them would have probably said no, and that What?
And they need to use the fan.
Yeah, yeah, it's not automatic.
No, I know, and people don't use their fans. And I know, Mark always, my husband always says that you have to run, when you have a gas stove, you always have to run your exhaust.
Yeah, and it's just kind of common sense that if you have gas going, you should have a vent outside. And but that wasn't thought about when now they're making it illegal for people to put in gas lines in new homes in some parts of the country. And I don't have the ability to do all the testing, but I believe that the carbon dioxide level wouldn't be too bad as long as they follow the rules about proper ventilation. But instead of following rules, we're just gonna make a big rule, but ban them altogether. And another interesting change in the industry is magnetic induction ranges are being promoted, and the price has come down on them, and they do save energy, and I believe they're going to be a wave of the future. And they're getting that low enough price now that they're almost as cheap as regular ranges, and the glass doesn't get as hot, and the food actually cooks a little faster, and you have pretty good control. The cost of servicing a magnetic induction range is still a little bit higher than a regular range, but I'm hoping that the cost of parts and the ease of service will balance out in time, so that they'll be more cost effective without any rebates to do it, just based on free market. That's the best way to make the change, in my opinion, is with the free market. And, another change a couple years ago was in refrigeration. They went to a R600 refrigerant that's less harmful to the environment, or not harmful at all. And this new refrigerant, though it's flammable, it's more dangerous to service, and so it requires more proper training. And as a result, probably 70% of the service companies across the country are refusing to do any work with the Freon on these newer refrigerators, and it's creating a problem where whether it's the manufacturers or the extended warranty companies can't find anybody that's willing to work on these units, because of the fact that they're a little bit more dangerous, require a little bit more knowledge to work on. And I don't do it myself even, but I've got one guy who's qualified to do it. But for safety reasons, I prefer to bring the refrigerator to the shop before we do any work with this new refrigerant. Just as a safety precaution. But the rules were meant to help the environment, but with the damage from Freon, which how much damage they do is still debatable. But indirectly, we're creating more trash. And I wish there was a way that when these rules go into effect, we could look at the whole situation, not just the immediate benefit, but what the whole ramifications are. Some of the rules, because some of the rules that had very good intentions have had some side effects that we never intended. And so I've spoken up in the industry a few times at conventions, that I'm to the point that I'm known as a troublemaker.
Yay.
Got a question?
Yeah, Ron, I remember talking to you a couple of years ago already, and you were talking about like the average age of most appliances. I don't mean to sound old when I say this, but they don't make them the way they used to. They're meant to last a much shorter time. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Like for example, dishwashers, average life now is only about 7 years for medium quality, maybe 9 years for slightly higher quality. They used to last 15 years, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is, and I'm not trying to pick on the government, but it's the water usage. There was rules that dishwashers have to use less water, and so with less water, it's harder to get the dishes clean. So the manufacturers have increased the speed of the pump. So the pump has to move the water at twice the speed, and the dishwasher has to run for 2 hours now to go through a cycle. Used to only run for 45 minutes, and now they run for 2 hours. So if you're going to run your dishwasher twice as long as you used to, and you're going to run the motor at twice the speed that you used to, then if you take a car down the road at 100 miles an hour instead of 50, you're going to wear out the engine faster. So that was part of the reason for the change in the length, and then the other reason for dishwashers is because the soap chemicals, they used to have phosphate soaps, and those phosphate soaps would clean dishes real well, even if the water wasn't quite hot enough. And so now since we're using different chemicals, and there's experiments going on all the time about which chemicals work best, and I'm finding that some chemicals work better in one city and other chemicals work better in a different city, depending on what additives are in the water from the city well or the country. But all these new soaps now, since there's less chemical power, now there's a push towards higher temperature in the dishwasher. I have to tell people all the time, to boost the temperature, got to have it around 140 degrees to get the dishes clean. And so since we don't have the chemical power, we're looking for thermal power to get things clean. And that higher temperature means that the current going through the control boards, and that you're using your dishwasher as an electric water heater, basically, that you didn't have to do years ago because you had more powerful chemicals. So we're harder on the dishwasher electrically. We're trying to make it do its job with less water, so that there's no choice but to wear out the dishwashers faster. And a general rule of thumb is that you shouldn't put in more than about $300 in a dishwasher that's under 4 or 5 years old, and if they're over 5 to 7 years old, a lot of times you're not even worth the service call. And that brings up another point that a lot of people have had to be educated on, is that when you're at that point of the decision, when you're trying to decide what's wrong with it, the industry, and including myself, charges for a diagnosis to come out and figure out what's wrong with it. Whereas like in other industries, like in carpentry, a lot of times you can get a free estimate for somebody to come out and tell you what it's going to do. But in the appliance industry, we can't do that, because if we did, people would have us come out and diagnose it and then go buy the part and fix it themselves. And so some companies like Cardinal Heating has had to get people's credit card number before they even go out to the house, because if you took a survey right now of 100 customers and asked if a service person came out and diagnosed the problem, but they didn't fix it, they just diagnosed it, did you feel you should be charged for a service call? 50% of the population would say no, they didn't fix it, I should not pay for the service call. And that a lot of people have that attitude, but based on other industries, and they don't understand that it's different in various industries. And so we've had to explain that to more customers, because I used to assume that everybody knew that, and that was the wrong assumption to make. But go ahead.
So the last time you talked about washing machines and adding vinegar.
Yep.
And so then I started doing this, and then I read something that the vinegar can affect the rubber seals and stuff. Is that true?
It helps keep them cleaner.
But it won't
No.
cause them to degrade or anything.
No.
Okay, I'm going back to the vinegar.
What is the vinegar trick?
The vinegar trick is that many of the soaps that nowadays are hard to get rinsed out, and it's always a balancing act between putting enough soap in to get the clothes clean, but not too much that you end up putting the clothes in the dryer with chemicals in them, because when the chemicals come off in the dryer, the lint is sticky and sticks to all the vent parts and on the venting. And by putting vinegar in the fabric softener dispenser on the washer, that comes out in the rinse cycle, and the vinegar helps to dissipate the suds, making it easier to get the last bit of soap out. Ideally, if you put in the correct amount of soap, you don't need the vinegar. But if you're concerned you might be putting in a little bit too much soap, sometimes the vinegar helps. You give you a little bit of flexibility for the soap quantity.
And how much vinegar?
Usually about half a cup.
White vinegar.
Yep.
And so if you ever notice your towels are kind of scratchy, the vinegar helps that.
Right.
Because that's the soap that's left in it.
Yeah, a test that everybody should do the next time they do a little laundry is after the washer's finished and you're about to put the clothes in the dryer, start the washer up again, and preferably with warm water, and let it run for a little bit and see what the water looks like. Because if you've already run it through a wash cycle and a rinse cycle, and then you thought it was ready to go in the dryer, and you start it up again, and the water has got some suds in it, that's soap that you're going to get on your skin, and it's going to come off in the dryer, causing probably 30 or 40% of the service calls on dryers are because the lint sticks to everything, because the soaps nowadays don't get rinsed out completely. And everybody's always asking me how much soap should I use, and it depends on the brand, depends on the temperature, depends on the softness of your water. There's no one single answer for that. So you can make your own judgment by looking at the amount of soap in the clothes. If you think you put the right amount of soap in and the right amount of rinse cycles, the test is to how much is left if you refill it with water later. And if there's lots of suds left, you got to cut back on soap, or else use more rinse cycles or more vinegar. And if there's none at all, there's a possibility you're not using enough soap. Well, that's most people tend to think that the more soap you put in, the cleaner the clothes will get. But it's not necessarily the case.
I think get rid of all the old appliances that you pull out of houses. Can you recycle? Can you salvage anything, or do you have to take them to the dump?
I was fixing up a lot of used appliances, taking the motor out of one and putting it in the other, but that's getting less and less cost effective nowadays. There's a market for it, and I can't find enough help that's willing to do it. So most of the appliances are getting metal recycled. But I'm also getting into a little bit of a new venture with that, in that, like, I had a refrigerator that was only 2 years old that was scrapped, and I made a list of all of the common parts that wear out, and since it's only 2 years old, I'm going to catalog some of the functional parts, because they're only 2 years old. I can offer them at a discount to somebody. I can organize them right. And I had a case a few years ago where a brand new dryer had a big dent in the side of it, and the manufacturer gave me credit back on it. But instead of scrapping it, it was brand new. I took the motor, heating element, timer. I sold, so made more selling off the parts than I would have sold the appliance complete. But I got credit back to the appliance besides. So that's how I recycle some of them. And so sometimes I do sell a few reconditionments to people that are starting, young couples are starting out. But unfortunately, the life expectancy on the used appliances is shorter than it used to be now too, because it's like the used washing machines. I sell a 3-year-old washer, and I got a 20-year-old washer next to it. But the 20-year-old washer will probably last longer than the 3-year-old.
Are any like isn't the Speed Queen made in Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Are many other appliances made in the US?
Yeah, there's more and more that are starting to come back to the US actually, which I'm trying to understand. Like with General Electric, they were bought out by a Chinese company, but they're moving production to US plants. So which are they? An American company or Chinese company? I don't know what to say to that. But like Speed Queen, there's no question it's made right up in Ripon, Wisconsin. And what's interesting with Speed Queen is that 25 years ago, of all the laundromats across the country, they had 45% of the business, and Maytags that were made down in Newton, Iowa, had 45% of the business. But after Maytag was sold out to Whirlpool, now Speed Queens here in Wisconsin make 85% of the laundromats machines across the country, because they discontinued the production of the older style Maytag down in Newton, Iowa. So Speed Queen is the most durable machine left. It's also the most expensive top loading washing machine left. And with life expectancy, I tell customers that when you can buy some washers for $600, $700, and they'll last usually about 7 years. And Speed Queen claims that theirs will last 25, but I say 15 to 17 years, but it costs about twice as much, but it lasts twice as long. So it's if you're just looking for a short-term purchase, you can buy a cheap one, but if you want to preserve the environment and to try to, I prefer to have the same machine for 14 years and buy two machines.
The only thing wrong is if you keep any appliance too long, you kind of miss the window for any improvements that they make. And there have been some significant improvements, as far as using the appliances go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like they've made improvements, in ranges, but like ranges aren't any more efficient, but
Well, like the washers, they have, where you can fill it up and it automatically adjusts the amount of, soap.
Yeah, that's a whole other issue. They have some with automatic soap dispensers, but that isn't necessarily the right amount of soap. And they have most of the new washers now have automatic water levels that adjust to how many clothes you put in them. But if you look, when you put a full load of clothes in, you only get about 2/3 of a tub of water, if that. And after 10 years of doing them that way, I was reading an article now that somebody has found research that there's a connection between the amount of water you use and how clean the clothes get. and so after that 10 years of scientific research, what I've been explaining to people is that with a lot of the new washing machines, there's been a competition who's got the biggest capacity washer for the money, so that you get the bigger tub for a lower price. But when they call me complaining that the clothes at the top of the tub aren't coming clean, and it takes a while for them to get wet, I tell people that when it's 4.5 cubic foot, that's just for advertising purposes. It's only 3.5 cubic feet of usable space. There's 4.5 cubic feet of space if you want it, but only 3.5 based on the amount of water that goes into it. And what's also interesting is that in front-loading washers, if you go to a laundromat sometime and you notice that you can see the water in the window on the front-loading washers, that up to about 3 or 4 inches into the window, and those machines clean the clothes better than the ones that I sell, because the ones that I sell, all the water only comes up to the bottom of the door, and it's the ones that I sell are more efficient than the ones in the laundromat. but you can counter that. But I'm not supposed to be telling you this, but by adding water manually to raise the water level up a little bit higher, but do so at your own risk, because the reason why the manufacturers don't do it is because if you don't follow the directions, which nobody puts a floor drain in their laundry room anymore. They used to say that your washer should go in the basement by a floor drain, and 90% of them now are not near a floor drain. And if you have a front-loading washer and you put extra water in it, and you got a sweatshirt string caught in the door, and there's water trickling down the front of the machine onto your wood floor, there's a tendency to go after the manufacturer for the damage to the floor. And so the liability department and the marketing department said, let's lower the water level. You can market it as more efficient. There's less risk. The clothes don't come as clean, but and so with front loading washers, at your own risk, you can raise the water level. And I've been complaining about this at conventions for a few years, and now General Electric just came out with a front loading washer that you can manually skip the automatic cycle and raise it up higher. And I haven't checked one out yet, and I'm wondering how much higher, and I wonder how they got around the legal risk. I'm going to tell anybody that advise the GE washer that if they don't have a floor drain, that they have to accept the risk that if something is ever caught in the door, that it could damage their floor.
So is it a marketing thing or not about cleaning your washer with, like, you can buy stuff to clean your washer?
Yeah, there's various chemicals cleaners you can use, and it's a good idea to clean the washer. And most of the newer front loading washers have a clean cycle, and that clean cycle gets the water level up higher than normal, because a lot of the residue is right in the first inch or so above the water line, and you can't see it because it's in the outer tub. that's why front loading washers had a reputation for mold smell, was because the residue was hard to clean out and you couldn't see it. And so it's important with any washer to run it through a clean cycle, and it's important to soak it with hot water. I prefer bleach, but there's other chemicals that work just as good as bleach too. And I haven't had the time to do a scientific study yet on all the different all the different options of chemical cleaning. But it helps with, because many of the mechanical problems with washers are because all the gunk builds up around the shaft and seal, and then the seal wears out and the water gets in the bearing. Whereas if the seal could be kept clean, then the mechanism will last longer.
So just run water and bleach every once in a while?
Yep, and then just let it soak with nothing but hot water and bleach, agitate a little bit, soak a little bit. And that helps get some of that residue out of the bottom. The hotter the water, the better.
So are we supposed to do that with our dishwashers too then?
Yeah, it can be done. It's a good idea to do it with dishwashers too.
Okay.
With dishwashers, it depends on whether you're at one extreme of never rinsing the dishes, or the other extreme of pre-washing the dishes. If you pre-wash them, you don't have to do it very often. but if you see any residue down in the bottom of the dishwasher, then it's time for cleaning.
But like, can you do that, like run a clean cycle, just run a cycle with nothing in it? Or?
Yeah, with dishwashers, I'm a little bit leery about putting bleach in, but because if you do, you have to be sure to run it a few times afterwards. But yeah, what was your question again?
Should you clean out your dishwasher too, like we clean out our washing machine?
Yeah, but you have to use other chemicals other than bleach. They have cleaners that are out that are approved for dishwashers. And of course, one of the most important thing is to get the water as hot as possible to temperature, so it helps break down the residue in the dishwashers. And in fact, what?
Use vinegar to clean it?
Yeah, you use vinegar in dishwashers. And another thing with the dishwashers, if you know of anybody that's remodeling or building a house, I've been wanting to speak at one of the architects conventions, because I've had two cases in the past week where people had dishwashers for years that worked fine, and the new dishwasher doesn't pump the water out properly. And the reason why is because some homes were designed with the dishwasher around the corner from the plumbing, so the drain hose has to go downstairs or through a lazy Susan, and instead of being right next to the sink. And with the smaller amount of water and the smaller pumps, there's not as much power to pump the water out as there used to be, and so that a lot of homes now that have dishwashers that are not right next to the plumbing, I've had to tell them to call a plumber and put a standpipe in right next to the dishwasher for the hose to go. People have said that their old dishwasher worked fine that way, and we'll look it up that way. But the cleaning performance is not as good, because the longer the drain hose is, the more dirty water stays in the dishwasher instead of going down the drain. And I can't believe that our architects realize that when you have a long drain hose, you sacrifice the performance of the dishwasher. And another thing which I'll talk about is refrigerators. Everybody's got these bottom mount refrigerators with the drawers that pull out on the bottom, and sooner or later it happens to everybody that you have too much food on one shelf and it blocks the door open, and then you realize that you did that, and after that there doesn't have the spring pull that it used to pull the door shut, and what happens is ice droplets form in the track, and it never has a chance to dry out. And so if you have an incident where that happens, where you caught yourself having too much on a shelf, what you can do is pull the drawer out and take a hair dryer and warm up the tracks on both sides of the freezer drawer, and then make sure you got it all good and dry, and then spray a little vegetable oil. One of my techs sprayed penetrating oil. It's smelled up the whole refrigerator. But I tell people to use vegetable oil to lubricate the track, but to dry it out first. And people get rid of refrigerators a lot of times because they're not sealing properly. And then once they thaw out and dry out and lubricate, it works fine. And
I brought in a window air conditioner for you to dispose of.
Yep.
And what happens to that? Does the metal get recycled? Does it have to be taken apart?
Well, we have to, either we or a subcontractor has to pump out the refrigerant. There's like 6 different types of refrigerant, and sometimes that's reused, but most of the time it's not. But it has to be pumped out, and then once that's pumped out, then the rest of the unit can be recycled for scrap metal. And we haul in at least one or 2 loads a week of scrap metal. So for 1 truckload, we get about $120. It's barely worth the time, but at least it gets recycled.
Would you have to do that, or could you put it, let's go to the landfill?
Most landfills will not accept air conditioners. There's fines for putting them there. Yep.
I have a question with, the supply chain problems with China. You as an independent dealer, are you low priority on getting parts, or is that gonna be an issue, or?
It's been an issue, I order them through a distributor, and then the distributor orders them through the manufacturer. So I do a fair amount of business with distributors, so like, it's a matter of, it's supposed to be first come, first served across the country. But I was shocked when I went online last week, and there's 4,000 of a certain computer on back order. What else? Probably already know about dryer vents, but they have to be cleaned and should be as short as possible. And if you know of anybody who has a house where the venting goes too far and up into a finished ceiling, and if they have problems because of the distance, now you can get dryers that do not require venting. But they're more expensive, and they're more likely to need service, but they're more efficient, and they're an answer to the safety issue, because when people have real long vents, there's a tendency for dryers to overheat and cause fires. And this other dryer is called a condensate dryer, where they take a dehumidifier and they take the exhaust air from the dryer, run it through a dehumidifier, and then take that hot air back into the dryer to dry some more, and back to the dehumidifier, dry some more, and then the hose going as a pump that pumps the water from the dryer into the same drain as the washer, and they call it a condensate dryer. They actually save energy because they reuse the heat instead of blowing it out. However, most people don't like them because that amount of heat is not as high a temperature as a regular dryer, so the drying time is probably double of a regular dryer, and it's hard to believe that it takes twice as long to dry, but it costs less. But that's true.
Where does the lint go?
The lint goes into a filter, and if I could speak to the engineers, I would have told them to copy Speed Queen's dryer system, and that the lint filter does not get pulled out. You just scoop the lint off of the top of the filter, because human nature is to let the filter get too thick with lint, and then you pull it up and half the lint falls off and goes down into the dryer. And with the foolproof design, you don't take the filter out, no matter how forgetful you are. You can't pull it out. You have to just pull the lint off of the filter, and that was intended for apartment buildings where you can't discipline people on how to clean the filter. But I think the general public needs the same discipline.
Yeah. I have a little lesson about your dryer vent. We had the plastic stuff.
Yeah.
We had mice chew through it and got in our house. So now we got the metal dryer vent. So yeah, they must have been a nice warm place, and I went down there one day and there's this huge hole in my dryer vent. And, yeah, it only took like overnight.
Yeah. One thing you can do that's good for dryers and the mice don't like is they have these things you can put on the outside of the house. It's a 90-degree curve, a PVC pipe, and then it's got a cap on it. And then there's no real place to crawl on the outside, and it protects from the wind. It's
Well,
better.
we have the curved one, but it doesn't have a cover on it.
And this one would curve up and then have like an upside down bucket on top of the piece, and then a rain cover over top of that. And
Outsmart the mice.
and that kind is easier to clean than the kind that have 4 little louvers. You can just take the cover off and reach down and clean it. But the builders don't like it because it makes the venting less discreet. It's not as nice looking from the exterior standpoint. When vents are in the front of the house, a lot of times the venting is designed for looks, not for reality. Can't think of anything else. Any questions?
Thanks, Ron. Now I'm paranoid about my dryer vents.
I am too.
Check my dryer vents.
I know, we all have
Apparently.
this list now.
Oh, did not think about that, thanks, Laura.
Those mice too fast, I'm telling you.
Also, I feel better knowing that it is not my imagination and my appliances are not lasting me long. And the fact that I've had 4 dishwashers, I feel better. Not better financially, but better that I haven't lost my mind, so.
I assure you, I didn't write any officials.
Good enough. Thank you very much. That was super interesting. All right, Phil, if we could do a few happy dollars, that'd be great.
Okay, $50, you know, $10. That's what I say. It's start with and it's eating and nope. Okay, make me look bad.
I did this recovery meeting because my husband had foot surgery, so I can't drive, he can't do nothing. So I took him to his appointments and the surgery, and so so we're standing there and we're scheduling, I go, Tuesday at whatever, I go, can I do it later so I can go to work? So you guys are a priority.
All right, I'm just taking money because I don't know what I'm happy about, but we had a really good lunch meeting yesterday. Chad came from the Parks Department, he's part of the rec, Park and Rec, he's the rec department. So he gave us some really good info on scheduling and this guy takes up a lot of his time. It's what Chad is, he's young. But it was a nice meeting. I've got lots of appliance stories, you know, with rentals. Yeah, you're right. It's always interesting, but we did just, my husband got a freezer for his college graduation in 1983. We just got rid of it this summer. Thank God. Out of my garage, and you know, it's so works. Yeah, so we're gonna like get that thing out of here.
So like an upgrade this. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I have an unhappy dollar. My wife has had some medical issues, so I'm having to do a lot of the housework.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not very good at this.
Well, but now you know all this appliance stuff.
Right, and that's what I'm unhappy about, because my wife has been pointing out to me all the stuff I do wrong, and she's absolutely right, but I'm wrong, so. Thanks a lot.
She was validated.
I am happy because I finally decided that I need to make change. 6 months. We'll be around and have that after 5 months. Anyway, it's a big day. It's a big day.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
Well, my happy dollar is about how well Ron has put me here. I mean, I have a main point worth and prior that's all. Open rigs, wash rigs, wonderful. Then I got an LG refrigerator, was remodeled 14 years ago. And I was getting ready to have a party and the doors wouldn't go shut. So I called Ron to come an hour before the party and dismantles it, so the door was shut. And he told me there's a part that's missing. When I find a used LG refrigerator, I will come and replace it for you. So on a Saturday afternoon, about 5 o'clock, he called and said, "Are you home?" And I said, "Yes." He came and replaced that part, and now my refrigerator is back.
There's one for the all the help and the pancake deal. I was confused whether it was the day of the open house or Meals on Wheels, because afterwards, I took all the leftover pancakes and sausages, and I happened to know a family that was just struggling, and I gave some of the neighbor, they were thankful to them, and then they told me about a neighbor that was also struggling. I should do some, so I got all the pancakes and sausages, but it did not get wasted. But I buy Meals on Wheels with parties.
So first, happy to see Bob here, and I'm happy. The reason Bob is here is to meet me afterwards. So the reason that's even possible is because 2-day trial is supposed to start tomorrow morning and settling with dismissed. Instead of going out to Wausau for 2 days, I'm going to go to Wausau just to get good news. And I'll hike Red Mountain and come back down. So that's and more incredible. 2 is gratitude dollar for our great speaker. Usually makes us feel better about humanity. And we're also very satisfied customers. We also have rentals like Rose, so we for us at least, it seems like a lot of stoves and refrigerators around over the years. I've been very happy. And also talking about appliances and hearing Chad's questions about design obsolescence. Diane's 40-year-old washer made me think of my parents' freezer. My grandparents bought that freezer from International Harvest. International Harvest made freezer, as they did, from 1947 and 1955. And they gave it to my parents and they got married, and my parents unplugged it, I think, sometime in the 2000 teens. Not that because it wasn't still working, because it was still working, but they no longer needed the box because they're getting older and they didn't have as much need around the house. But he kept that little guy going for however long that is. I think if he was plugged back in, he might kick right back on. So that's amazing. Thanks.
So yes, I want to give a thanks to Ron for already taking care of the pancake breakfast, but that was super interesting. And you too have come out and helped with my parade of dishwashers that, this one is good. And I don't rinse out. I'm one of those people. It's a dishwasher. It's supposed to, I'm not washing it every time. That's its job. It should do its job. And then, this is my mom this weekend, who's doing well, so that was good. Got a chance to be up in Cleveland, Wisconsin, with my mom, so that was fun. And, my daughter and my grandson are gonna be in town tomorrow for 10 days. I'm very excited about that. So good stuff happening there. So hurrah. Okay, so. Oh, Aaron, anything to add? My apologies. Yeah. Hi.
He just wants us to think big.
We have a new rule at the Y that if you're on a Google meeting, you have to show your face, because I think that's.
Oh, we gotta draw the ticket.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll do that. Switch over here.
You get a ticket winner, so they're not mad at you.
Okay, ticket $9. Right. Thank you. All right. So, 6 Excellent. Ah, fabulous. Excellent. Yeah, no. Yeah. Well, with that, I will say thank you to everybody. The Rotary knowledge of the day is that the Rotary emblem has traveled to the moon with an astronaut. And I tried to find out what astronaut, and I didn't quite find out. But the Rotary logo has made its way to the moon. So that is our trivia for the day. And with that, again, board meeting after this in 5-10 minutes. And thank you. Have a good Tuesday.
Nice meeting you.
That's in the.
Oh, okay.